Well, good evening. This is Susan reporting here from home. I was just reading about bankruptcy and how this affects our economy. The more people file, the more people that file bankruptcy, the worse it is for our economy. And I do believe that there is a lot of bankruptcy scam going on throughout this nation and in other nations, and it's a tactic that the people involved in benefiting from bankruptcy are involved in. And it's sad to see that how this affects our economy. This is greed and corruption. I thought about filing bankruptcy once when I was much younger and more ignorant. I had never had to experience financial hardship up until that point. I was in my early 30s in Mississippi, being exploited, being used, being mocked, being denied. But by the grace of God, no wonder why we have so much drug addiction among the youth, especially here in the South. It's an epidemic. I believe that our communities have a responsibility with their youth, and instead of exploiting them via the Department of Human Services and via the juvenile court, these kids need to be put to use. They need to be guided in the right direction with God, with their books that God gave them. They should not be denied. And I know that teachers have long known that no matter how hard they try, if the home environment is not healthy, the child will not be healthy. But I do believe that teachers and parents need to work together. Kids don't need to be written up left and right, to be flagged for the DHR system, which is the equivalent of kid jail. Our attorneys need to be fighting another battle. They need to be fighting for the injustices to make sure that justice is here on earth as it is in heaven. They need to recognize the law of God and remember it. Read it on a regular basis, because the way that our attorneys here in America and corporate attorneys have been functioning in forever has been corrupt, exploiting the poor. No wonder why our economies have gone to I'm going to restrain my tongue because I don't want to sound vulgar, but I do have a tendency to sound like a sailor lately. I did not come here to lose. I've never seen myself as a loser, because I am my father's daughter. I don't care how other people see me, and I don't care what they label me as, because I am my work, and my work speaks for itself. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I will take responsibility for my actions, but I don't want anybody confusing themselves with me. I've never charged for sex. I am not a whore, never have been, and never will be. There's a lot of hypocrisy and corruption among the churches that are doing all of this studying and research at the expense of the needy. Churches need to stop playing politics, as Albert Einstein once said, and have a conversation among themselves on the table of transparency and peace to discuss politics, discuss education, discuss military, discuss economy with God in mind and in the center of it. The more we oppress the people, the more they'll go in debt. The more the rich gets richer and the poor gets poorer, the more they get oppressed. The more the children and the women, especially poor, get oppressed, exploited, prostituted. This table that has been revealed to me by my father, because I like to read. I like to read not because I don't have anything better to do, but because I like to read, because I like to learn about everything. And I'm not an expert at everything, but my father has revealed to me what he wants me to know. He wants me to share a message with you. This table that I'm talking about is round. This means equality. There's no head of the table. The center of the table, that's where God's presence is. That sets the tone right then and there. There will be transparency. There will be respect, mutual understanding, truth. All of these things will automatically be there because with God in the middle, everything is possible. He is the hand above ours. He has sent specific people here on earth to do specific jobs. He has sent us Dr. Martin Luther King. He had a time to do it, and he did his job excellently. He had a job to do, and he only had so much time to get it done. Mahatma Gandhi, Albert Einstein, President Eisenhower, and Maria Montessori were all very well aware of this. And people who were enlightened were persecuted, so they had to go somewhere else, and they ended up being where they were supposed to be. Albert Einstein deeply regretted participating in the atomic bomb. He did not want the genius of the people working for government to be used for destruction. Our God-given time and God-given intelligence is to be used for the betterment of humanity. This is wise. It is the wise thing to do. It is logical. It's efficient. It's effective. It's fair. Who doesn't want all those things? Isn't that what you go to war for? Don't you go to war to fight for the freedom? So defend the very freedom that you're fighting for from within. Defend the freedom from within, and defend it in your home, defend it in your community, defend it in your state, defend it in your country, defend it in your earth. Defend the freedom. Do not flee like a coward. All of this disorganization and destabilization of the people in the to and from is destabilizing our economies. I am being provoked. The Father does not enjoy at all what's happening. Everything does happen for a reason. He made me just the way I am, for me to send this message to you today. The Father does not play games. The Father wants the children to be innocent and play games. When I was invited to live in that house with Andrew Trahan, we were in a relationship. It was a common law marriage. I am not a prostitute. I'm not Babylon. I don't appreciate being exposed to all kinds of horrific things through the television after we moved into that house. I don't appreciate all of the disorganization with everybody and their brother coming into my home, invading my home for your curiosity, your entertainment, your research, which is quite unethical. I have not been compensated for any of these damages. Neither has my child Alexander. Neither has my son Jacob. But they want me to file bankruptcy. All of this September slide that I'm being subjected to is a bunch of baloney. I am not a racist, but if I see something is wrong from the Black Afro-American community, I will call it out. If I see that something is wrong from the Hispanic community, I will call it out. If I see something wrong with Caucasian community, I will call it out. And I am black and white and Hispanic and American, and I am legal. I do not like illegalities. I believe that if this country is letting people in, or has let people in, or will let people in, they need to do so legally. And if they're here illegally, then they're already here. We need to allow them to have their papers so that we know who is who and what is what. My name was originally Sussan, according to my mother. That's how I learned it. That's how I wrote it my entire youth until I joined the military. When I went to join the Marine Corps in 1993, I was told that I needed to redo my entire paperwork because my naturalization paperwork, which had 2 S's, which was supposed to be my correct spelling, did not match my translated birth certificate, which only had 1 S. So who made the typo was the latter. However, it was never fixed by my parents. I was told when I got my naturalization paperwork that that would be the equivalent of my birth certificate. So I went with it. Well, it is done. When I went in the military as an airman, it was SUSAN. When I birthed my children, Jacob and Alexander, it was SUSAN. And it was like that for my adult life until I came back to the state of Alabama. They wanted me to go back with Susan with 2 S's as it was on my naturalization because they were going through all this immigration whatever, which it didn't clarify anything in my opinion. It didn't fix anything. It was just a temporary dysfunctionality that was pretending to be fixed that didn't get fixed. But I was caught in the middle of it. And I'm not prejudiced. I'm not a racist. I'm not evil. I'm not Babylon. I'm not Leviathan. I say that if we're going to let people in here, then they need to have their papers so that they're not exploited. There are some people that don't want to be found. Okay, that's fine. But I don't have anything to hide. I believe that there is a bold brutality. And it takes a bull, but I am not the goddess Baal. No. It takes a bull to knock down that other bull. And I am. I may not be the sharpest shooter, but I learned enough about my job to shoot. And this is what I'm shooting at. I don't like to shoot the scheitze, as they call it. I don't have time for that. I am here to talk about important subjects, and that has to do with education, public education, military, with the church, and politics. If we're going to be letting people in, then we need to recognize, do we have enough resources for our own? Because what I have seen since I've lived here in Mobile is a pattern that everybody and their brother comes through, they leave or they prosper, and the black Afro-American, especially if they're poor, unless they do something illegal and corrupt, which most of the time they'll get busted and go to jail, which the whole system is set up for that, to feed the jail system. And who's benefiting from that? The people who are benefiting from that. I don't care if you shoot me today, because it is widely known. So why is our country going backward? Forcing people into bankruptcy. First of all, minimum wage has been very low. Well below standard. It is not possible for the average person to live on that salary unless they do something corrupt or illegal or unethical, which I'm not willing to do. I have done a lot for this country on a volunteer basis, maybe haphazard, maybe not. I don't care. Yes, I know, I'm aware I make a lot of typos. I'm not embarrassed. I'll go back and read it, and then it sounds like something a child wrote, or maybe somebody with a disability, or maybe somebody from a different socioeconomic status. That's how I wrote it at that moment, as I felt it. I'm not embarrassed to make a mistake. I'm not embarrassed to say, I was wrong, I will fix it. Just like my weight. I believe in letting people live. Live your life and let live. Yes. Because we're not to be judging one another. God is our judge. Do we have enough for our own people here in America? First and foremost, that's the number one question. If we don't, then we need to prioritize our own people first, without denying help to our brother. But we cannot have everybody and their brother come over here, putting the pressure on us as a country, making us feel guilty, because there's many other countries they can go to. We have got to take care of our own. We cannot be taking kids away from their parents to provide for the state. We cannot be taking these kids away from their parents to feed our corrupt jails, to make the rich richer. Those people who are monitoring the inmates and monitoring their phone calls, monopolizing the industry. If we know that smoking is bad for us, why do we do it? Because we like it. Even though it says so right there on the box, this causes cancer. But then you say, F cancer. I hate cancer. What are you doing about the matter? Are you preventing indoor smoke in the restaurant business, in the casinos? Are you preventing indoor smoke in the bars? But you say, F cancer. What are you doing about it? You will say, I have to do what I have to do. Whatever I have to do, I'll do it for my child. I will leave my country and leave my child behind because I have to do something for my child. Well, that's fine if your conscience tells you it's fine, but that's not how my conscience feels. I did not leave Jacob, so I lingered in the south. When I came here to Mobile, I had no idea what was ahead of me. All I know is when I lived on Sage Avenue, I saw this vision of this tree with 12 branches and people praising God. They look like little V's, like this, with the little round head right there. Adults, children, all races, all religions, and this clean river. And there was another side across the way, where the sun was in the horizon. And the fish that were swimming in the river were happy because their water was clean. So if the fish were happy because the water was clean, we must have cleaned the water with God's help above ours. Because if we read our books, whether it's the Torah or the Quran or the Bible or the Dead Sea Scrolls, we have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So if we don't have heaven on earth, it's because we don't want it. Because we like it dirty. We like the youth getting lost. We like the youth getting doped up. We like the psychiatrists labeling these children who are being exploited by their very communities. And these kids have no choice but to do corrupt things or unethical or illegal things that land them in jail, and it's a vicious cycle. And they're told, you're a loser, you're a nobody, you're there because you don't want to change. You're there because you don't believe in God. You're there because you need medication. You're there because you like to blame everybody else for your problems. Well, we have the psychiatrists, the psychologists, the attorneys, the judges, and all these people exploiting the youth. Give those kids a paintbrush. Give them walls to paint, and you will keep them out of trouble. Stop labeling people and look at yourself in the mirror. Look at your own flaws. Open your own mouth and look down your throat and tell me it's attractive. Why don't you go ahead and bend over and look at yourself? Tell me if it's attractive. You tell me! We are His body and we are His blood, and you need to believe that we are, and that He's here, and He's not happy with what you're doing to the youth. You're leading them wrong because you're not reading your books. Or if you're reading your books, you're misinterpreting the Word of God, and you're exploiting the situation with your status, and you are misleading the youth, exploiting them, prostituting them, using them, and you don't care when they commit suicide because they're not your child. They're some crazy child. They're not your child. That was just a little loser who was in jail or in the psych ward, or he was a bad student, or he was just like a nobody because their parents weren't lawyers or doctors or judges or politicians or scientists or movie stars. We all have a Star of David in our heart. You need to spit it out. If we were to throw out all the lies that we're holding on to, we're going to vomit it all out of ourselves until there's no more lies left. And then the next time you open your mouth, nothing will come out of it but truth. And you'll have no choice because you will have delivered. We all have a truth that's choking us, that must be delivered. And this truth shall set you free. It will deliver you and us, because me is we. When our earth is done purging the lies, then we will be much lighter. Much, much lighter. We don't need to be killing ourselves and each other. We don't need to be poisoning our waters and the air that we breathe so that we can have less people on earth and more resources. No, we need to have self-control when it comes to reproduction. We also need to have self-control and be aware that self-control is the same as self-dominion, and God has given us dominion over the water, over the animals that live in the water. Let me rephrase it. He has given us dominion over the animals that live in the water, not the water. He has given us dominion over the animals that fly and those that live on the land. What are we doing? Are we taking care of our animals so that they can be healthy, so that the people can be healthy? Or are we trying to create patience? Are we doing experiments that are just right down macabre and of the devil, that are so dark and so secret that nobody's supposed to know about it until maybe 20 to 40 years from now? Well, I'm just letting you know that tomorrow is already here, and today is already tomorrow. So all of that you're doing is going to be exposed today, because tomorrow is already today. Today's already tomorrow. Me, we, like M3WE. And so we have to write. So what was M is now 3, and what was 3 is now W, and what was W is now E, and what was E is now M. And we have to keep writing. We have to keep writing. Okay? Because our bodies are vessels, and it's mostly water. And the Spirit hovered over the waters in the beginning. And then the Spirit spoke, "Let there be light." The Spirit was hovering over the waters and said, "Let there be light." And the light separated from the darkness. But it's that circle of life. The light goes back in and out, and in and out, okay? The goal is to come out of the darkness, to be born. Born! To be born. We are so preoccupied with what life would be like in another planet when we cannot take care of our own planet. If we utilized our God-given time and our God-given resources and all of the scientists and geniuses with all the math and science and all of the technology and all of the engineering, we would get it done in no time. It would be done immediately. We would say to the mountain, move, and it would move. But we've got all kinds of people doing all kinds of things and not connecting with God. And everything that we do, we need to consult with the Creator. Because He's the one who put us here, and He's the one that can take us out. If we cannot take care of our own planet, what makes us think that we're going to be able to maintain another planet? Totally different environment, totally different size. Are we going to even adapt? It would be a lot more cost effective, and it would be wiser and faster to fix our own planet together. Like together. Have you ever seen the Amish community when they go to build houses? They get it done quickly. And they're like back in time. They're back in time, that's true. But that hasn't affected them, their health. It hasn't affected them in their faith. Yes, of course there's dysfunctionalities, I'm sure, like everywhere else, but not to the degree. They're clean. They understand that family unity is the most important unit. They understand teamwork. They understand teaching the good things in the home and at school. Let us emulate the good in each other. If we can make an observation that the people in the East, especially the Arabs, you know how they do business in the world. They own a lot and they know how to manage the oil industry, and they know about construction. Think about, the Father wants us to emulate the good. He wants us to share. So let us emulate the good. What is it that they're doing that's working out for them? Because if we don't learn from each other, we're just going to be dependent. And we're going to be subdued and oppressed by other people if we don't catch up with God in mind. With God in mind. We have our books. We have the Torah, the Quran, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the Bible. Let's sit ourselves down on the table of peace and discuss politics and math and science and education and military with God in mind. We all have a star of David. We just need to deliver it. Because we are the problem and the solution. Thank you.